Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de what are some guardrail rules to add on top of the generally accepted 4% withdrawal rate that would put a normal person's mind at ease in terms of long-term retirement success, especially if you've retired early, well, like me. Hey, Zempak here. So I think by this point most of us are sticking to that 4% rule, right? Which, briefly recapped, is just, hey, you can spend 4% of your investable portfolio generally from now until, well, you die. And that's generally considered very safe. For the original purpose of the study, that was meant for a traditional 30-year retirement, involved a fixed stock and bond split, so already there's some differences between what that states and what FIRE people actually do. Now we are preparing, well, I should say personally, I am preparing not for a 30-year retirement, but a 60-year one, at least, even a bit more, since I'd like to make it well past the 100s in my old decrepitude. So for that much longer horizon, most people in the community of FIRE aims for something like, 3.5% and maybe a much more aggressive, mostly stock portfolio, right? But today's topic is, in addition to that set withdrawal rate, what other rules or guardrails could somebody put in place to further ensure, well, that one does not run out of money, aka has to possibly go back to work. I mean, seriously, imagine the terror. Now, I've been out of the workforce for half a decade already. There's simply very little incentive for me to get back into it. I mean, it'd have to be like a dream job of being a whiskey taster for a major company or something like that. That would get me back to the 9 to 5. Anyway, if you're intrigued by what I might say, please subscribe, like, comment, share, and all that social media buzzwords, or whatever, because I am totally rich enough for me. I will be great regardless. Now, number one, try not to adjust your spending up according to inflation from year to year. That's my number one tip. Okay, remember that the traditional 4% withdrawal rate actually assumes you are adjusting your spend up by the average inflation rate every single year. That's around 3%, and my first rule is simple to counter that. Don't do that. Just try to keep your spending at exactly when you started, like what the amount when you started, right? It shouldn't be too difficult to do this, actually, considering most people are creatures of habit, and we expect to pay the same price every year for the same items. Now, I get that inflation does actually exist, prices definitely would go up, which is why the assumed spend slides up with it. But what I'm saying is that we simply lean into how most of us feels bad with spending more for the same stuff. So this mentality will help keep our spending from actually inflating by, well, finding some savings somewhere. It's literally frugality practice in the context of retirement. Now, you might ask, why would an early retiree want to engage in this? Is that abnormal? But let's be clear, actual, real, regular old people retirees already do this, okay? Because their pay, Social Security, whatever, pension does not adjust according to inflation as much as they would like. So if the old people can do it, so can we. It's never a bad thing to work on those frugality muscles anyway, as our grand overlord, Mr. Money Mustache, would say, okay? Tip number 2, or guardrail number 2, simply tighten up when the market goes down by, let's say, I don't know, double digits, 10%, okay? AKA, act like what a normal human being absolutely would do instead of a robot, okay? Which is what algorithms think that a person would act like. Remember, all the calculations and algorithms are not adjusting for real-life human behavior. Now, if you saw your portfolio go down by double digits in any year of your retirement, when that's your only source of income coming in, what's the most likely scenario that a person would engage in? Keep spending the same amount as the year before and adjusting by inflation upwards? Or, see, that's what the math assumes, right? Or just tighten the belt a little bit. So again, I'm not asking for any action a normal, reasonable person wouldn't engage in anyway. So I think that should just be a given. If your portfolio is down by a noticeable percentage, right? I'm putting that by double digits or at least 10%, you simply tighten up the next year as a reaction by at least the same amount, right? So market drops by 10%, you cut your spending by 10%, okay? Because you should have some margin of error in your retirement spending. So this action, by the way, and the next one that I'm going to suggest would just seriously mitigate this whole sequence of risk return entirely, okay? A final guardrail or tip or whatever you want to call it, try to keep a reasonably long, what I call like a complete emergency fund of 2 to 3 years of, on hand in basically cash or near cash equivalents, such as money stashed in a rolling CDs, a couple of rolling CDs or high yield savings account. This is for the purpose to counter those sequences of potential down market years. Now, this is usually what I would call, like complete or long-term emergency fund, a bit of a misnomer because this fund, it's not meant to take care of the occasional car repair or home repair that most people think of or associate with an emergency fund, right? But it's meant to accommodate an entire cycle, the down cycle part of how a market can squeeze your portfolio. So I guess it's like an emergency for the stock market fund. So if you look at actual market returns since it's begun, you'll notice that there's incredible volatility, but it does not usually go down more than 3 years in a row, okay? And that is really what you're protecting against, okay? An emergency at a global scale. Of course, if you're into fire, you're aware that the reason the average market return is still high implies that the up years emerge more often and often higher than even the blips of multi-year downturns. So all we have to do is basically not be forced to sell anything while the market's down like 20% on year 1, down 20% on year 2, even down 20% in year 3, because it's going to recover. Usually goes down by 3 years at most, and then it recovers. You'll sell when it's up, never when it's down. And then if you do that, boom, safety is achieved. So in conclusion, do all these additional rules plus that 4 or 3.5% withdrawal rate mean that we will finally have a 100% success rate in retirement or early retirement? Absolutely not. Good God, there is no such thing as a guarantee in life, okay? The funny thing is, people who are still in the rat race love to throw that in the face of early retirement people, okay? Even though those are a regular job of theirs, it's absolutely not 100% safe, okay? So if there's no guarantee, whether your income is coming from wages or salaries or investment incomes, in either case, will it always be there? No. So all we really can do is mitigate risk when we can find it, and that is what my additional very doable rules, do here. Of course, your mileage may vary, because everyone's financial situation is, personal and unique. So what I can say is I follow my own rules, and it's been working. I've been retired. I am retired. I'm remaining retired, because you guys can tell I am definitely not making any money from these YouTube clips, right? So, if you think I'm off my rockers, please feel free to yell at me below. Otherwise, till next time, cheers. À la prochaine.